I'm gonna start off with the Josh Whedon thing. Josh Whedon, he got into it with what is his name? Was it Ray Fisher from the character who played the guy who played the character Cyborg on Justice League when he directed that?
I know Fisher is the last name because I was just reading this article. I think Ray is his first name.
I think it's Ray Fisher, and it was a back and forth thing, like allegations that Josh Whedon's very toxic on set, and like I'm gonna be honest with you, the way Fisher was handling it, I assumed it was more about like screen time and him feeling that he wasn't getting his character and his presence wasn't being felt and he wasn't getting any love and things like that, and he was just taking it out on Josh Whedon. But then another allegation comes out, and we have that's the wrong one. We have other people from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, the TV. Yeah, that was his like notable TV show, and then he moved on to movies after that. From what I was reading.
What new things did you come across?
New allegations.
New allegations, exactly.
I actually hadn't heard any of these allegations before you sent me the show notes, so I just read I read an article that had a couple of them in there earlier, and I think it was on Yahoo was the one that I was reading, but I was confused because. Not that I want to know all the details, but it really didn't explain to me what they were really mad about other than saying he was like toxic to work with, but I didn't know exactly there wasn't really many examples of an instance from what I was reading. Did you find anything?
Well, Sarah Michelle Gellar, in a very polite and I don't know how she did it. Maybe I have to look this up. Let me pull that one up first. Sarah Michelle Gellar did something on Instagram or Twitter where
her statement about
a statement about how she doesn't want to be associated with the name Josh Whedon for the rest of her life.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I was like, wow, that is I mean, she didn't straight up accuse him of anything or say he did this or he did that, but just she didn't even have to say anything at all. But the fact that she was compelled to say something, she showed nothing but support for the people who were accusing him of being toxic, and then said, I don't want to be tethered to that man anymore. It was just like, this is the most professional backhand that I've ever seen in my life. I just was like, wow.
She told him which exit to get off on without having to spell it out. I am curious to know exactly what he was doing that made these people feel so strongly to have to say this about him.
Sarah Michelle Gellar is proud of her Buffy co-star for speaking out against Josh Whedon. Hours after her Buffy the Vampire Slayer co-star Charisma Carpenter and Amber Benson alleged that showrunner Josh Whedon plagued the show's set with frequent emotional abuse and toxic behavior, Sarah Michelle Gellar has issued a statement of her own. In a message posted on Instagram, Gellar voiced support for her former castmates about going public with her experience, although she didn't state if she too had any unpleasant memories of working with Whedon. While I am proud, she goes on, while I am proud to have my name associated with Buffy Summers, I don't want to forever be associated with the name Josh Whedon, Gellar wrote. I am more focused on raising my family and surviving a pandemic currently, so I will not be making any further statements at this time, but I stand with all survivors of abuse, that she says abuse, and am proud of them for speaking out. So she basically said it without saying it, in my opinion, based on that.
Well, and you know what? Honestly, I'm kind of glad that people are talking about this kind of stuff, because when you hear abuse, people always think it's physical, but also these people who have these emotional breakdowns all the time, and they hold the people around them kind of captive by their emotional outbursts, because people are walking on eggshells around them, and no one ever wants to make Joss mad because you don't want him blowing up.
Right.
Like, having to always be on high alert around somebody is abusive too.
But on this People's article, it says Michelle Trachtenberg says there was a rule on Buffy set that Josh Whedon could not be alone with her. And you came up with a good question about, like, who came up with this rule?
Well, yeah, because when I read that headline, depending on who came up with the rule totally changes what that means.
So if Josh came up with the rule, what does that mean?
I don't know what that means, but that's really weird. If Michelle came up with that rule, then that feels like she absolutely doesn't feel safe around him. But if he came up with the rule, then I don't know what the heck that means.
That means he don't feel safe around himself being around.
Right, yeah, he doesn't trust himself to not.
Former Vice President Mike Pence cannot be in a room
he can't
alone
have lunch
with another
ladies.
woman.
Yeah.
mother has to approve of this interview before.
Yeah.
That is so
yeah, I did not like that headline that they could not be alone in the same room because
mother would not approve. That is the
yeah,
sexiest pet name for your wife.
Well, and most of these people on this show, I don't know exactly how old they were, but they were at the oldest.
She was a teenager at the time.
Early 20s, yeah, and teenagers. So you're screaming and emotionally abusing teenagers in Hollywood. Like, I need you to get a life job.
And then if her mother or father, who might be also her like manager and things like that, say something, and then and knowing that Josh is wielding all this power, the show is rising, he's getting all these movie deals and he's writing all this stuff and just his name is just constantly growing. You're thinking, well, I'm just starting out in this business and he can probably like snap his fingers and ruin me like that. So people just have to like, it's unfortunate. They feel like they have to take it. But now that social media is out, I notice that people are quicker to be like, no, this is wrong, and I'm gonna hurry and get the word out before they try to suppress it. That's usually what's happening.
Well, yeah, and especially if it's this kind of thing, if most people probably don't want to confront him because they don't want to have to deal with it. If they know how he is and how he reacts to people talking to him, people probably just don't even want to address it, and then they just let him keep doing it, which isn't the right thing either.
I mean, at that age, 15, 14, doesn't even matter if like sex sells is true, but sex sales needs to start at a legal age and with their consent. I'm like, I'm like, it's almost like you're because you're putting that message out there that these girls might be obtainable. Ooh, when is she turning 18?
There's like countdowns for like celebrities when they're going to turn 18. I think Billie Eilish was the last one that they did one for, and it's like, there's not some magical veil that gets lifted off of a 17-year-old who's 17 and 364 days old. Then the day they turn 18, it's like, it's so creepy. It is so creepy.
Like Britney Spears, and that's been in the news recently. We talked about that on the other show. That there was that countdown, and I remember when I was because I'm the same age as Britney, and when her album was coming out and everything, everybody was saying the same. I was hearing rumors about dudes in their 40s and 50s also going to those concerts, standing next to those young girls and stuff who were just trying to enjoy Britney's music, but the dads were like buying I'm just chaperoning. No, you're not just chaperoning for the most part. And they had that joke about the countdown to when she's gonna turn 18. That's when
they had one for the Olsen twins too.
I remember. I forgot about that. You're right. They did. And go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking it's an online countdown, and I think about the people that share that kind of stuff, and I'm like, you're like 42 years old somewhere in Iowa counting down to when the Olsen twins that you watched as babies on Full House are going to be legal for you to look at because you've been doing it this whole time, but now you just want it to be legal. Not only is that creepy enough in its own, but you're also like, you know what? I'm so comfortable with this. I'm going to share the countdown on Facebook. Like,
another veteran of Buffy the Vampire Slayer has publicly offered support for Charisma Carpenter, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, she also made a statement herself or shared something with herself, but I haven't read that yet. But yeah, it seems to be a pattern going on, Josh.
Yeah, at this point where there's smoke, it seems like there's definitely fire with this. How many people are going to say that have the exact same experience with this guy before people think, okay, yeah, maybe he does suck?
If you like what you saw, make sure to subscribe to the channel and please drop a like on this video. It really does help us. Also, don't forget you can turn on notifications so you don't miss a single review, react, why is that trending, or we got your mail.